Clocking in, a day in the life of 1960s factory workers. Half-light clings to the narrow lane as the first worker arrives, breath billowing faintly in the stillness. Ahead, the mill stands solemn, outlines blurred by gossamer tapestries of vapor rising from hidden grills and sunken drains. The air is sharp. Every inhalation pricks with the promise of another long shift. Solitary footsteps crunch across gravel, steady against the hush, boots brushing scattered cinders and pooled rainwater. Distantly, the ceaseless hum of unseen engines threads through the pre-dawn gloom, a low pulse woven with the clank of a far-off door. Yellowy window panes glow against the slate sky, hinting at warmth inside as yet unreached. The great mill chimney exhales thick, lazy streams that dissolve into the awakening world. All around, the faint odor of hot oil, old timber, and morning smoke lingers a silent herald for the day ahead. The instant the heavy mill gates swing open, a procession of figures steps briskly through, each swiping their card and waiting for the small mechanical chirr that means the day has truly begun. Before the sun filters through the high factory windows, the inside comes alive with the ring of metal against metal as levers are pulled and hulking presses lurch into action. The acrid scent of metallic lubricant, mingled with an undercurrent of cotton dust, floats over the rows of machines. Lights flicker on in staggered succession, revealing columns of wool stacked in readiness, their fibers still clinging to the remnants of night's chill. Across the main hall, the foreman's voice carries above the first bursts of activity, barking out reminders and greetings, urgent and familiar in equal measure. Steel gears shudder, then settle into their precise rotations as stampers and looms add their voices to the increasingly layered din. Dials are adjusted with calloused hands, while old calendars on the walls flutter under the change in air, announcing a weekday like so many before. The ground trembles faintly as the largest frames shiver to life, each reaction echoing in the pipes overhead. There's a shared rhythm emerging. Hurried footsteps mixing with the scrape of stools, the explosive rush of compressed air from a line being primed. A momentary shout for assistance swallowed up by the mounting mechanical chorus. Over all hangs an oily mist that coats every surface. Railings, worn uniforms, half-drunk tea mugs resting forgotten on benches. As spools begin to turn in earnest, workers exchange nods across the floor. The unspoken exchange weaving a network of camaraderie within the clatter and haze, and the day's momentum equal parts hope and routine takes hold. At the heart of the weaving room, looms pulse in steady synchrony, their movements both relentless and mesmeric. The air is thick with the particular scent of freshly woven fibers, carried on currents disturbed by every shuttle's pass. Intermittent bursts of static charge flit up as threads fly through open space, while motes hover and resettle with the least provocation. Fluorescent tubes stutter above, casting their harsh glow over rows of operators, each striving to match the machine's exacting tempo. Hands press against levers with habitual grace, learning the subtle language of each minute adjustment. Above everything, the constant beat, low, insistent, utterly inescapable, cuts through conversation and private thought alike, as if the fabric of sound itself passes through the warp and weft. Minute after minute, the ceaseless pattern repeats. The sharp clatter, thread tension snaps, the signature drag as cloth accumulates upon wooden rollers. Faces are powdered with pale residue, evidence of hours spent within this still, humming box. Despite the repetition, small variations emerge. A momentary snag, a broken length, quickly remedied and tucked beneath the pile. Threads find their destined place, and fabric inches forward, measured not only in meters but in the intimate progress of effort. At intervals, co-workers exchange brief glances, an entire conversation held in the raise of an eyebrow or tilt of a chin, before turning again to the rhythmic dictation of their craft. Late morning settles in, and the mill's tempo slows just enough to allow for the first blessed tea break. Machinery hums in the background, now a dull echo, as workers gather round battered flasks and heavy pottery mugs, each cradling warmth against their chilled hands. Wisps of tea steam curl upwards, catching shafts of fugitive light and mingling with the perpetual haze. Bowls of sugar cubes clink as they're shared out, each crystal plopping into brewed liquid with gentle pops, briefly brightening the murmur of conversation. The workers cluster in small knots by the rough bench top and beneath patched coats hung on hooks, their faces lined with both fatigue and familiarity. Old jokes resurface, sparking pockets of laughter that ripple through the group, quiet as the moments when a biscuit is dunked and savoured. The mild agitation of spoons swirling keeps time with subdued voices dropping hushed gossip. News of Ruth's daughter's engagement. Speculation about overtime, the fate of the local football league. Steam fogs the thick mug rims, drifting under noses as the group settle into a companionable silence. Outside, the sound of distant bellows barely penetrates, replaced inside by the shifting shuffle of boots on worn lino and the crackle of wax paper. Unwrapping a shared pork pie, here the relentless pressures of the shift are briefly held at bay, replaced by the soft camaraderie born of routine. A glance or an arched brow shared memories, and the unspoken comfort in simply being together as the hands of the old wall clock creep forwards. By early afternoon, a heavy languor seeps into the mill, as if every corner and crevice has absorbed the weight of so many identical days before. The scent of stale sweat thickens beneath the suspended ceiling, mingling with the faint mineral temps of tired bodies. Buzzers blare at set intervals, abrupt and officious, rattling nerves more than spurring action. The relentless drive of the machines seems to dull beneath the fog of tiredness, their constant clatter receding until it becomes something almost apart from reality. Feet throb in overused boots, the ache radiating upwards with each shift of weight, while workers listlessly shift from foot to foot in half-hearted attempts at relief. Faces, once animated by morning camaraderie, slacken into expressions of distant focus as repetitive tasks grind on. The low hum of exhausted conversation is barely audible above the mechanical din, and there's an unspoken tension hanging thick in the humid air. The anticipation of relief becomes a kind of sustenance, a gaze towards the clock, a subtle counting of minutes, a hope clinging to routine. Stray threads gather in silent corners, and stray glances dart between machines and supervisors, each sensing the thin patience stretched across the floor. Hands grow slower, more deliberate, as wrists twinge and shoulders stiffen with the effort to maintain pace. The sense of collective weariness is punctuated only by the shrill reminders from overhead alarms, keeping everyone in line, reminding all that the day is far from over. Palms are wiped across clammy brows, fabric edges are fingered with habitual precision, and despite every effort not to be noticed, silence itself becomes another burden. The cycle of rising monotony and simmering restlessness etches itself into the walls, and all wait, quietly enduring the afternoon's slump, until another buzzer signals change. The day's final stretch unfolds in the charged quiet that follows hours of near-ceaseless motion. Racks heavy with colored bolts line the workstations, their patterns waiting to be measured and checked, each one inviting a last burst of care. Threads are smoothed down before being bundled, the urge to see every detail right outweighing the ache in the hands and wrists. Out on the main floor, the only sound sharper than the distant hum of machinery is the measured pulse of the clock perched above the supervisor's station, its tick adding an almost solemn cadence as time winds towards home. Workers' breaths hang a little heavier now, caught between fatigue and the private satisfaction that comes from a job well done. Faces glisten, brows knit in concentration, and resigned sighs ripple across the rows as reels are lifted for the last time, tape unspooled with an economy born of long practice. In the storeroom, shelves must be restocked and inventoried. Chalk marks dragged over tally boards, each number a testament to the day's push. The aura of the room has shifted. No longer feverish, but marked with a kind of pride. A resolve that demands the simplest tasks, folding, stacking, labeling be completed with dignity, no matter the late hour. There is comfort in these rituals, the sense that the fabric's journey is guarded right to the end. As the minute hand creeps on, shared looks carry a wordless reminder. Almost there, and still, every bolt is straightened, every line is checked, until finally, as the clock sighs out the final moments, workers allow themselves to stand back, soaking in quiet approval before the doors close on another day. Beneath the work jackets, badge numbers hung from breast pockets, worn smooth by countless shifts, grease stains found their way into the lines of hands and undershort, time-bitten nails, betraying every hour bent at humming machines. Between tasks, some workers kept faded photos, tucked in wallets or safety helmet brims, little faces and sunlit parks, a silent reminder of purpose away from the raw. Looking at those photos in brief, private moments sometimes during the rare lull seemed to tether them to a world beyond the cold stretch of the floor. The repetition left its evidence in posture, the way spines rounded and fingers curled. Yet each movement became part of an unspoken choreography. Day after day, pride and weariness inhabited the same tired bones. Stories shared in confidence, nourished identity, and laughter dampened by fatigue filtered through close camaraderie. In a world measured by the punch of time cards and the settling of dust, the mill became more than a workplace. It was a marker of belonging, a place where leaving a thumbprint in grease on a tight clock, or finding a moment to trace the outline of a loved one in a dog-eared photograph, meant anchoring oneself to something bigger. While the work wore people down, the stubborn markers of individuality battered lunch tin. A childhood snapshot, a scribbled football score tucked away became their quiet resistance. Industrial days ran together, but in their small tokens and ritual gestures, workers discovered meaning and connection within the clatter. With the evening siren echoing through deserted corridors, the mill's spirit lingers, even as its floors stand empty. Scuffed tiles gleam faintly in the twilight, dotted with the imprint of countless shoes now vanished for the night. The hush feels almost foreign after the relentless clamor, broken only by a closing fire door thumping shut in the distance. Beyond the back stairwell, faint laughter drifts from the car, park reminders of friendships forged and stories exchanged behind the factory's walls. The scent of lingering warm metal hangs close, interlaced with a fainter trace of polish and old coffee. Now, as dusk settles and cool drafts sweep through silent bays, the memory of these shifts forms an enduring legacy, one built from patience, tenacity, and humble pride. The work may be done, but the fellowship endures, stitched invisibly into the fabric of the town itself.